campus, which has clubbed all of us here for this event today. And I heartily welcome you all for the 8th episode of our renowned Back to College series with the aim of bringing our alumni to the alma mater. Now, before moving forward, as we all know, light is a symbol of brightness and prosperity, and light is good from whatever lamp it shines. So to make this evening a blessed one, let us invoke Goddess Saraswati by igniting the lamp of knowledge and wisdom. For seeking the supreme blessings, I would like to call our reputed chief guest, Mr. Cawsi P Lilauwala, Honorable Campus Director, Commodore Dr. Vivek Chawla, HOD Marine Engineering, Mr. Hare Ram Hare, Assistant Professor, Mr. Shashank Bani, Assistant Professor, Mr. Gopal Krishna, and Professor, Mr. Mehran Shroff. I request everyone to please take their seats. Now, I would like to invite our Honorable Director Sir onto the stage to welcome our esteemed chief guest for the day. Moving forward, the legend in front needs no introduction. He has a career span of 47 years in shipping with 15 years of experience in senior management, 4 years as managing director, 3 years as fleet director, and 8 years as fleet manager. He has pioneered innovations in container ship safety, container firefighting, controls, and strict reefer monitoring to prevent loss and insurance claims, analyzed accident reports to ensure safe operations of ships. He also innovated cost controls and safety for dry docking of ships based on his experience. The next achievement in the list is he's also collaborated with Wärtsilä for modification of hydraulic system in electronic engines for fail-safe operation. The list is not over yet. He has also authored the first SEP manuals for Anglo-Eastern, the prelude to the regulatory ISM system. As the number of achievements are extraordinary, so with few of these remarkable achievements of such a wonderful and inspirational career, I would like to call Director Sir onto the stage for the brief introduction of it. So, now, sir, I would like to call you up on the stage for your session.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Now, I have just written a few notes. I will tell you a few items which you will face first as a career, and I'm sure all of you want to know how fast your career will move to the top, how fast you'll become chief engineer, etc., etc. The issue is actually not with the career, the issue lies with you. How hard you work, what knowledge you have. If you go on the ship and you act, let's say, dumb, and the chief engineer says, "Arey, this guy is useless, he kidhar se aaya?" then you have a problem. But if he finds that you're intelligent, you are the go-to guy for any problems, you know the pipelines, etc., etc., then he will depend on you, he'll promote you fast. This is my experience of the young cadets who come out. And sorry to say, which I think is knowledge known to everybody, the young people today are averse to hard work. But taking this job or this career is a lot of hard work, believe you me. It's not easy because you have automated ships now, so you don't keep night watch, okay? Your engine rooms are not so hot. We used to work in engine rooms of 55 degrees, okay? And now you won't have port stays to go out. Things like that will happen to you. So things have changed from what we were out at sea compared to what you are going to face. But the bottom line remains the same. The ship has to run efficiently and there's a lot of hard work involved. Definitely, you can't get over that. So those who are not going to work hard, I think it's time that you look for another career rather than going through 4 years, spending your parents' money and then giving up after some time. My batchmates, a lot of them gave up actually, honestly speaking. Or they did 2-3 years and they went into business and did all sorts of things. So think about this very carefully before you get involved in this. I'm not going to sugarcoat this, but you have chosen a very tough profession. Of course, in the olden days, before my time and my time, everybody viewed marine engineering and sea career as something fantastic. Today, you are at the bottom of the matrimonial heap. Okay, so let's move on that. Let's go to views from the top. I'll tell you the views from the top. Go ahead. Can you change to the next slide, please? Okay. As I said, there are only 2 types of sailors. Those are the ones who stick to their career, retire with good savings, have assets to their name, and that's a career they want. They do not want to come ashore. They say there's too much janjat ashore. We don't want to get involved in that. We want to stay out at sea. We will do a bit out at sea, earn our money, do our exams, finish it all off, get married and take it. Many captains and chief engineers do that. Mostly, actually, I would say. The second lot are those who want a shore job. I'll come to that later. Okay? Now, this is a problem which those who are thinking, oh, I want a shore job, you have a problem. Because if you stay out at sea for long and you pass 40, people ashore will not want you. They'll say, "Hey, ito butta ho gaya." Fact of life. Get used to that. Okay? The other issue is, if you are working at sea, you have to finish your exams fast because you want to cross that bar of thinking to come ashore. And you need some experience as chief engineer. If you have that experience as chief engineer, at least 1 or 2 years, helps you above the rest of getting a job. You see? Ashore, I mean. So, again, finish your time, do your exams quickly, pass at the first attempt. Because if you don't pass at the first attempt, what is happening is, you're lagging behind, your earning capacity is gone. You're spending money, okay? So, study, and the best place to study is on the ship. No distraction. Duty karo, study, get ready for your orals much before you come ashore to give your orals and give your returns. You are ready to give your returns when you have stepped ashore. If you do that, you use the time out at sea. And it's not, you don't have to spend hours and hours. You spend 1 hour every day studying, and you have your onboard laboratory in the engine room. So all the questions which are there, all the answers which you want, you have the senior staff who will help you, will answer your questions, plus you have the laboratory down below, you have the whole engine room. So you can make your notes, draw up stumps, take photographs, copy the manuals, and nowadays you just take photographs of the manual, you have everything, which we never had. So that will help you pass your exams in a hurry. Do that. Believe you me, do that. I think this is what I've written. Do not fall behind, especially the 4th year cadets. Come ashore, exam done, finish. Get out. Okay, next slide, please. Now your careers in shipping, you can read it all. Okay, become a superintendent. Worst job in the world. Okay, but everybody wants to do it. Okay, you'll be woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning regularly by a chief engineer who will say, now what do I do next? So it's not the greatest job, believe you me. I can speak from experience. But it's a very satisfying job. Pays you very well. If you are smart enough to join the foreign shipping, which I shouldn't say here because this is Government of India undertaking, okay? So you get a job ashore, become a superintendent, you have that experience. Then of course you become a surveyor, classification, MMD, you have a shipyard repair, you can read all these things here, okay? The easiest one is the third last one. I hope you don't mind, no, if I say that. Again, there is someone who likes to teach. So if you like to teach, then that is it. And again, your notes and your experience will help you. Start your own business. Well, I never started my own business, so I really can't help you on that, but you need a godfather. One more thing I'll come towards starting your business, because a lot of shippies don't have a clue about business. They come ashore, they get ripped off. When I was a second engineer, I had a fifth engineer. 2 fifth engineers got together, they did it up to, I think, their second class ticket, and they did shrimp farming. I'm going back many years. They finally came back to sea. So you don't have the experience, except if there's someone in the family with experience of business, yes, then go ahead and do it. But be careful of that one. And study further. Those who want to study, do your masters with no guarantee that you will get a job. Okay, there are people in our office who have done their MBA, but nothing has happened after that. They are still doing the same job. So if you want to study further, your pathway should be very clear. What you want to do after that in business, in shipping related. So these are the things. Well, shall I go to the next slide, gentlemen? Yes, sir. An idea? Okay, next slide. Now this is me giving you advice. Don't have to listen to it. When you go back to your college, you'll say, "Gada sala advice deke chala gaya." Okay. So the first one is, when you earn your first salary, give it to your parents. They deserve it. Many of you have parents who have struggled to pay your college fees. Yes or no? Yes, sir. So the first salary, and it's a very moral booster for your parents. Hey, this is my first salary, take it. After that, you spend it. Second one, now this is very important, and I'll come to something else on this. There are girl cadets in the batch. Put your hands up, girl cadets. Very dangerous. Very dangerous. As you know, girls are very dangerous by themselves. I hope you don't mind. Now you go out to sea. Very good. You are on the ship, right? You have a fourth engineer who's a girl cadet, or you are a cadet, there's another deck cadet who's a girl cadet, or there is a girl on board. We have seen this happening, so I'm speaking from experience. Do not go to the girl cadet's cabin. Stay far away from them. Okay? Because what happens is, all you guys are young, your hormones are flowing. Okay? Fact of life. The signal gets mixed up. This guy decides that the girl is friendly, she's giving me the right signal. He reaches out to her, she screams blue murder. Then it goes to the office. Then it becomes a huge story. Okay? Believe you me, it's crazy. And then the office has to step in to sort out your sex lives, which we don't like. Okay? So, if you have a girl cadet on board or a girl on board, do whatever you want to do, but do it in full public view. Do not go to their cabins, especially in the evening. in the night. Do not do that. That is a minefield. You all are laughing, some of you. I have seen the emails which come from the ship, and it spoils your career, okay? And also the girl gets a bad name. So don't do that. And for the girls, do not go to someone's cabin. Am I making sense? So remember this. Bad experiences people have. Now, shadi.com. Your parents, you earn your salary, your parents will say, now get married. Yes or no? How many of your parents have already found a girl? Have? So avoid that. Focus on your career. This unfocused career you don't want. Okay? You tell your parents right in the beginning, I will do my chief's exam, then I am getting married. Make it very well known. And the faster you go through this thing, the faster you go through the system of the exam, then you get a chief engineer's license, then you do what you want. But do not land up in this mess, the unfocused career. Oh, शादी किया 6 महीने के बाद बेटा आ गया और साल का 6 महीने 9 after 9 months. Hey, listen, guys, that happens, by the way. Okay, that happens. So, and then there is a child, and then the wife will say, Lori, what are you doing? Going to sea? You come and work ashore. Find some small job. End of your career. Don't do that. Presently, I have a superintendent. Okay, I won't say anything beyond that. His wife is in another country. Okay, his wife has gone to India. She say, I can't stay here anymore. Okay, because it's too cold, it's too hot. I don't have a maid. I don't have this. I don't have that. Now that guy's career is halfway finished because she wants him to be next to her. In my office, we've had so many people. I have employed someone from the ship. He has come ashore. He has worked for 6 months and he has to leave and go to India for the simple reason that his wife doesn't want to stay in Hong Kong, etc., etc. So again, part of the unfocused career. So do your exams, go back to sea, collect some money, then think about it. And marry the right woman for God's sake here. Okay? The vicious circle of the bride is exactly this. Get married, have a kid, leave sea life. Lapna. So what you started off as a cadet, you want to go to sea, you want to become chief engineer, all goes to the dogs. Just because of a woman. Remember that. I'm speaking not from experience, by the way. Unfocused career, do not have it. Make it clear to your parents. Day one, I am going to get married only after I do my chief engineer's license. Finished. Last one, go home safely. I'll show you some slides and I'll show you some videos of what happens. Don't be one of those guys or a casualty or whatever it is. Finally, you have to go home safely. Simple system, follow a simple system. Join the ship with one suitcase which is empty, leave the ship with all your fingers intact and all your toes intact with a bag full of money. Simple. And be careful of the others around you because some of them are darn stupid. I've had an electrician who actually got his leg cut off by a wire because the Sukhani, it was jammed into something and the Sukhani freed it and this guy's leg was there and there was a circle loop around it. So he got pulled off. So not his fault, but some other idiot. Be careful of those type of people. There are many on the ship. I have some marks on my hand because of people like that. Next slide, please. Now you want to know the trends of shipping? This autonomous shipping is not going to happen in a lifetime. It will happen on deck. Okay? Because they can automate the whole thing with the radar, with the sensors, everything, it can be done. It is being done. There is a company in Norway which has a ship, a fertilizer ship, which does Yara. Yara is a big fertilizer company, gets involved in everything. They have a ship which runs between 2 small ports in the Baltic. No crew on board. For engineering, honestly speaking, do you think it will happen in your lifetime? No, it's not going to happen. So your jobs are safe? Yes, sir. Okay. So what is preventing your job being safe? Go back to the last slide. The bride. Fact of life. Ask the gentlemen sitting here who all left shipping and at what stage, and you will find that many of them have left because of this problem. Because the wife wants the family, and you will also say, I want family life. So do your exam, because then it gives you the opportunity of getting a short job easier. If there are 2 people, one with chief engineer's license and one with second engineer's license, who do you think they'll choose? and the experience. Now, fuels, I think you all are going to get someone from our Anglo-Eastern, a chap called Prasad Nayak, to give you a talk on all the various fuels. So I'm not going deep into that, but the fuel of choice just now is LNG. A lot of LNG ships being built, complicated ships, very interesting ships. If you like engineering, those are the ships to be on. So I would suggest learn more about LNG. Learn more about bunkering. That is a very critical operation. Running the engine on LNG is very simple, okay? Because if something goes wrong, it shuts down by itself, okay? So if there's a leak, shut down. If there's something happening, it imbalance, etc., it shuts down. So the critical operations are bunkering, things like that. So study this, because this is going to be the future. Ammonia, a very dangerous gas. It is coming. We have people building ammonia ships. Many ships being built with ammonia as a fuel. Not well established. The ammonia engine by BMW Vatsala is not yet ready, but it will be. Okay. So again, there the handling of ammonia becomes critical. Running the engine on ammonia, not so difficult. Handling ammonia, very important. So if you want to study it, concentrate your efforts on it, learn this bunkering and handling the system. And all the nitty-gritty of it. Where are all the sensors located? What happens when a sensor is triggered? All those type of things. The LNG ships and ammonia ships, you are not going to overhaul fuel injectors and all on board. Okay? No one is going to take that chance initially. Right? So it will be all on replacement cycle. We made a budget for LNG ship where the engine maker has taken where the owner has taken a 5-year contract with the engine maker. They will come and do everything on replacement basis. Fuel injector, replacement basis. Fuel pumps, replacement basis. Pipelines, because they're double walled and triple walled and all, replacement basis. So you are not going to be sitting there grinding fuel injectors. Methanol again is a fuel which is coming up. Okay? But I don't see that there's a lot of methanol available so far in the world. Hydrogen, again coming up. I don't know if you guys read the budget. Today there was something with Modi said about the budget, okay, that he wants to increase the hydrogen production. Green hydrogen. Again, that's maybe towards the tail end of your careers, you will have this. The whole trick of this is you learn it before it sits in your lap. Before you go on a ship, you know everything about these type of fuels and how to handle them. If you don't, then you are one of the thousands. At least you know what is happening, how to handle it, what are the pitfalls. And slowly, as the experience grows in the market, you will start reading about the experiences of ammonia, what are the pitfalls, all these fuels, what is happening, what are the pros and cons of the fuel. Figure that out, you're plus one already to the rest of the gang. Remember, there are a lot of cadets and a lot of seafarers out there looking for jobs, isn't it? So you have to be one cut above the rest. Think about it. Fuel saving and CII, I'll show you some slides. Okay? Wind. Can you go to the next slide? Okay. You heard of sails and all, read this. This is a rotor. And I'll show you a photograph. Can you just go to the next slide after this? So at least this is a wind assisted ship. You must have, some of you must have read it. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So this is an example. Now go back and read the rest of it. I'm not going to repeat it. It's worthless repeating it. But these ships are coming out. And the reason why people are so much bothered about all these various fuel saving measures is because of something called CII. How many of you have heard about it? Okay. So you know, and that becomes a big problem for the ship owner because he has to meet the goal of the CII at the end of the year. So he has to reduce his fuel consumption. If his CII rating is on D, he's all right, he can carry on. But if he's E, then the charterers will not want to charter a ship. So he's got an investment to at least, incentive to come at least to D. Okay. Now how does he do that? He's not going to fit all that huge thing on the ship. Okay. It's frightfully expensive. And a normal ship, you cannot have it. You cannot have it on a container ship. The gantry will knock it off on the first day. You see? So what happens is the other things which he can use. But bulk carriers, because of flat deck, they can use this. Okay. Can I go for the slide or you want to read it? Have you finished reading it?
Yes, sir.
No. Can you go? Yeah. Now this type of thing, can you imagine how huge it is? It has bearing problems. Bottom bearing gives trouble naturally because it's huge. The thrust comes on the bearing. Things like that happen. Not enough experience on these to have them rolled out on all ships. Again, a problem by itself. Can you go to the next slide? This is quite a very important development. The idea is to reduce friction on the hull. So they have thought about this. The Japanese, you have a cushion of air on the bottom of the ship, which is continuously there. So you are riding halfway on air. The vertical sides of the ship are actually the ones which give you the maximum friction. But you can't vary on the vertical sides. So this is found out. You want the ship to be floating, basically floating on air. So it reduces friction. When that happens, your fuel consumption comes down drastically. Lot of research being carried out on this. Ships are being built with this system now. Okay, because do not forget the compressor. All that has to be made, you see, and the compressor absorbs energy, a lot of energy also. So they're trying to figure out the size of the bubbles, how to do it, what to do it, things like that. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. Who is the most intelligent one or think he's the most intelligent one in the group? Someone put his hands up without being shameful. What are the pitfalls of having a cushion of air at the bottom of a ship? Come on. Come on, someone. Someone? Huh?
Cavitation.
You're quite close. More.
Biofouling.
No, the bubbles won't allow everything to foul. Next. Think. Flat hull, we agree on flat hull? Okay. Then what? What happens to the bubbles?
Tough to maintain it.
Hard to maintain. They will keep on disappearing from the sides of the ship, correct?
Yes, sir.
So you have to maintain uniform bubbles. Absolutely uniform. Okay? Which goes all through the hull, right to the bottom. So again, the ship has to be designed with that. And now if you have something protruding past the bottom of the hull, that affects your draft. Because then your draft has changed. You don't want to knock off that thing. So next, what other problem will be there? Come on. You are on a cushion of air, correct?
Erosion.
Pardon?
Erosion.
Erosion. But what happens when the bubbles go right to the end of the ship?
Pitting.
Someone said it already.
Impeachment of the material.
Cavitation. So this is something which Mitsubishi says does not happen. They say no, it doesn't. It doesn't affect which side of the blade will it affect? Suction side or pressure side?
Pressure side.
Speak up, guys.
Pressure side.
The pressure side. No, it's a suction side. Because the bubble is moving towards the propeller, correct? And theoretically it has to dissipate. I'll come to the next slide later on. It dissipates theoretically. But if the bubbles start bursting on the blade, again you have cavitation, correct? So that is something which Mitsubishi says does not happen, but it does. So, do we have to talk more about the air bubbles? Now just go to the next slide and you can read what are the pitfalls. This is what it looks like. It's working on cruise ships, by the way. One of the companies, I think IDA, has already implemented it, and Carnival is also putting it on their ships. So hopefully that works out well. This is the idea. You store the bubbles, and of course this is quite aft, but normally it is equipment is fitted just after the forward peak, because the hull shape changes at that point, and you want maximum hull shape. So you want the whole bubble line coming all the way through. Next slide. So as I said, you want the ship to be floating on these bubbles, and you don't want them to burst. You have to, the bubbles, you want them to be standard size. Okay? Standard size bubbles, not different sizes. It does affect the stability of the ship, maybe, okay, because you are floating on a bubbles, theoretically. What happens in rough weather is a question I don't have an answer to. Okay? Because don't forget, when the ship is rolling, right, some of it is going to dissipate, whatever you try to do. then what happens? So these are answers which we don't have. Which are the best ships for this type of system? Come on, best ships. Yes, of course. Huh?
Flat deck barge.
And come on, guys.
Bar carrier.
Flat bottom ships. Flat where the bottom is flat.
DPS. DPS.
I can't hear you.
Sir, dynamic position.
No, those are small ships. Bulk carriers. Big bulk carriers, they're flat. You see? Container ships, first, if you see number one hatch, from number one hatch, it's already a little tighter on the ship because you want the speed. So bulk carriers are the best for this type, and also the cruise ships, because they want to fill up maximum number of cabins all the way to the bottom. So they're not fine ships. Fine ships are the container ships, where even the stern is very fine. Any questions? Any questions? This technology will come in. Okay. The problem will be how to maintain the compressors, what to do about the consumption, how do you control the bubbles, all that will come in. But there are companies which have mastered it and they're using it. Next one. Yeah. Only for flat bottom ships, I just talked about it. How do you trap the bubbles? Correct, which is common. It's like your tires, basically you want the tires, you want all four tires to be on the ground. Stability and handling, again, a lot of discussions taking place on that. Suction side of the blade, cavitation issues. Uniform size, this is very important. I'll show you another slide where they have done something on the stern of the ship only. Only the stern. Take a look at the next slide. You see that? Can you see it clearly? You see those holes there?
Yes,
Let's put this on. How do I put this on? Can you see these holes?
Yes, sir.
It's on both sides. Can you see this?
Yes, sir.
This is another efficiency device for the propeller, where it brings the water flow into the propeller. Also, you have something called a fin, which is, this is a nut, which holds the propeller in place, and a cover. So they put a small propeller here also to assist. Can anybody see anything different on this slide? No. Very difficult in this photograph, unfortunately. So this, in the olden days, this used to be flat. Now what used to happen, I wouldn't say olden days, even now. What used to happen, the propeller turning excites, there's an excitation on the back. And nowadays most of the ships are with the afterpeak empty. So that becomes like a drum. Okay? And it makes a lot of vibration all the way to the top. So some of the container ships I've seen, they will fit a vibration damper in the steering gear, which works contrary to the frequency of this. And you put it off and the whole thing shakes like hell. But the moment you put it on, it all disappears. So that is another thing, just not connected to this issue, but this is what it is. What else? Can you go, and again, on a bulk carrier, the hull is flat as flat can be, all the way to the engine room, and then it becomes big. Forward also, number one hold. The number one hold is also on a flat bottom. It's only the forward of the ship. It's like a big fat, what would you call it, an elephant sitting in the water. Can you show the next slide? See, this is the way. Can you read it clearly or no? Okay, this is the compressor. This is the piping which goes through, and there is a layer of air here. Completely a layer of air. So it does the same job. Okay, and this is also something like that. At the back, again giving you an air blow. The same thing is there, which in the previous slides, for the forward of the ship. Right at the forward end of the ship, you'll have this holes. And this is the nozzle, which is there at the back of the ship, fitted here. Can you see that? So there it is fitted. Quite a few to get uniform distribution again. Any questions on this? No? No? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Propeller modification. Quite common, regularly done, costs about $500,000 if they take the old propeller back. You're looking at a propeller of 60 tons and 70 tons. So, this is a comparison. Now, sometimes different makers handle it, like you have Vatsala does propellers, you have Mitsubishi, you have Lips, you have a German company, I forgot the name. Now, the same propeller, they will design it which absorbs less power from the engine, so the engine is sort of running smoother, okay, lighter, and you may not have the same number of blades. The 6-bladed propeller, the other company, Vatsala, gave a design of a 5-bladed propeller. You see? So each one does this whole aerodynamic calculation and gives you this. Now see the weight of the propeller. See the difference of weight. It's quite a lot. And the skew of the blades. If you go to the next slide, we can show you. You see? This part, the skew of the blades, okay, and the complete angle will be different. So large number of tests are carried out. They do this, they design the propeller, they give you the graph of what the propeller will achieve, and then the propeller is changed. Go to the next one, which will show you the old propeller and the new propeller. Can you see the design? Can you see the change? This is very common. Ships going to dry dock, change the propeller. And the other thing that they do is change the bulbous bow. So once upon a time, the container ships used to be 25 knots. Today, no one wants to run at 25 knots, so they're so expensive. So they come down to about 20 knots, 20 knots, 18 knots. So they change the bulbous bow, okay, and they change the propeller. Now, how do you change the propeller? Anybody has any idea how do you change the propeller? Is a propeller with a key or without a key? No, you're not supposed to answer here. Propeller with a key or without a key? Gentlemen. Speak up, speak up. With a key? All nowadays modern ships are without a key. Keyless propeller. How do they make it sit? What do you do to make sure it doesn't fall off? And? Pardon? Yes, correct. Then? So what type of fit it is? It is an interference fit. So what they do is, now you have your old propeller which is bedded in. To get an interference fit, it's bedded into the taper, correct? Now new propeller is not yet bedded in. How do they do that? So the latest, I'll tell you the olden technology. The olden technology, you have a guy with a scraper who actually sits there. You put blue, you heard of blue, no? You heard of blue, let's call it, okay, I'll explain. For bedding this thing, you put blue on the, say on the propeller shaft, right? And then you force it up. Then you take it out and you see where the blue is coming. So you should have 85 to 90% fit. So in the olden days, that guy would be sitting there and scraping off little bits of the blue and then putting it back and taking it out and putting it back and taking it out to get the fit, which is you have to have the 85% blue minimum. The modern technology is they do some analysis of it. The machine is made in such a way that it will give you, by calculation, 85% fit, which is accepted by the classification societies. So far, no propeller has fallen off with the new technology. But we've had cases where the propeller has fallen off. And we've had one case where the actual propeller broke. The shaft broke. At the taper, the shaft broke. And the propeller went for a swim. What does the taper do? What is the purpose of the taper? Interference fit. You can't have it flat to flat because it will not match, isn't it? Pilgrim nut. Can anybody tell me more about the pilgrim nut? Hydraulic fitting. Have you studied this or no? No?
Yes, sir.
Have they studied this properly? Why don't you give a little bit of a lecture? Okay, I'll tell you. Simple as that. When they make the shaft, in the olden days you had a key, a huge fat key, which would fit. The key had a habit of breaking off right at the edge. Right at the edge, that would break. So they designed this keyless propeller, where, as you said, the pilgrim nut, you tighten the pilgrim nut, it's clear. Inside the pilgrim nut is a hydraulic jack. So you put it tight net, you have a certain temperature of the hub, of the propeller itself. So the hub is at a certain temperature, correct? The shaft is at a certain temperature. There's a graph made for this, and you push it up X amount. So you push it up in steps using the jack of the pilgrim nut itself. The temperature is very important, and they already calculate that and they tell you exactly how much. So before you remove the propeller, which nowadays people don't, okay, you have a gauge, just a distance gauge, which tells you where the propeller is relative to a point on the shaft. When you finish the job, you take out the propeller. When you put it back, you finish the job. You should at least come to that. But again, the temperature plays a part. Sometimes it comes up beyond that, which is perfectly all right. But it should not be less than that, because then something is wrong. Pilgrim nuts, again, very delicate. They look big, huge, the delicate piece of equipment. So to take out the propeller, you turn the pilgrim nut on the other side, and you have a jack, normal jack, crossbar jack. You must be knowing about that, correct? And then the jack is pushing. The hydraulic jack, which is inside the nut, is pushing it against the bar, and you push the propeller out. I've had a very funny incident once. You have the nut. Now the nut is supposed to be free, but in this case the nut, whilst taking it out, was jammed, did not come out. They had to cut the propeller nut. Now that is a big thing, because special material and the whole thing is involved. Big problem. So they made the propeller nut. They checked the threads were damaged. So half the threads were this way, the other half were tipped over this way. Do you know the code? So it's like this and it's like that. Big problem. So sitting with a file, everybody files, and nothing you can do, because you have to take out the shaft and you can't do it. So it was all done correctly. Nut was again tight, propeller was pushed up, nut was again tightened, and it jammed again. Now, you're all going to be engineers. What would you do if this is the propeller edge, back of it, the nut is say so much away from it, correct? So you haven't pushed the propeller up completely, correct? So in this case, just I'll give you a hint. They took out, when they were doing this first, they didn't want to, they put normal jacks against the background and they pushed the propeller in place. So now you have the propeller in place, correct? But the nut is this much away. Now think, guys, what would you do? What would you do to make sure that the propeller does not move out when the ship is running? What would you do? The nut is not going to move. It's finished. It's stuck at that point. What would you do? You can take it out, but you can't go inside. Come on. Ooh. Engineering knowledge. Come on. Someone put his hands up, for God's sake. Anybody? Come on. I want to hear something. Your guys are who are the fourth years? This side, or all over mixed? Fourth years? Okay, put your hands up. Okay, Menash, you choose one guy to give me some idea. Who's the smartest?
Smartest is shake. Where exactly is movement shake?
He abandoned ship early in the day.
Huh? Huh? He's got fever.
Oh God. Okay. Okay, next. Choose another one. Come on, think.
I think Cmde was the smartest.
Very simple thinking. Come on.
Cmde, answer.
Give him the mic. Come on. What will you do? You are stuck. And you have the office screaming on your head, you have the owner screaming on your head, you have the surveyor screaming on your head, and you are standing there like a fool saying, what the hell am I going to do now? And the shipyard has got no solution. So what do you do? What would you do? Come on.
So the nut is little bit far away, right?
Yeah, correct.
From the blade face.
Correct.
So, sir, the least we can do is to, if it is in the dry dock, we can just try to push it. If it is not in the dry dock,
It is in the dry dock. Well, then what do you do?
then we will try to push it, sir, is the last option. Or
No. Okay. Now this brings a little story for all you guys. When you are out at sea, there is no one to help you. It is only you with your ingenuity and God above. So when something drastically goes wrong, you as engineers have to think of a solution. Yes? Because the office can only give you advice, right? But the office is sitting far away. They don't have the actual picture of what is happening. And you are left on your own. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Like that poor superintendent in the dry dock. So, the purpose of this is to tell you, you have to think outside the box. You have to think, and this is where good engineers come into the picture. You have to think, what can I do to solve this problem? So, this is important for all of you to think how to solve a problem. No workshop, impossible. Okay? No shipyard, because the shipyard puts his hand up and says, you tell us what to do. Anybody else wants to give it a try? No?
Sir, I'll tell you later.
No, you can't tell me. They have to tell me. You will know the solution because you are like old school. Yeah, वो कुछ भी चिपका के उसको चलाएगा आप लोग. Sit down. It's very simple. You make a ring in two halves, a spacer ring, correct? So there's a gap, right? You move the propeller back, you move the nut back, 1 turn, 1.5 turns, whatever you think. You see that distance, you make a spacer ring exactly, correct? Agreed? You know where I'm going. The spacer ring is put between the two, and then you tighten the nut. What happens? How do you make a spacer ring? You don't want to take out the nut fully because you're scared. To put it plainly, you're shit scared at that time because God forbid if it jams while coming out again, you're dead. Okay? So, you make the ring in two halves, correct? Nicely with Allen bolts and you bolt it. Lock it, weld it. So now you have the ring, correct? Then you tighten it fully to the end. So it's absolutely tight. What happens then? There's something else missing in this whole episode because there's a gap, correct? So, the nut is sitting, the end of the nut is sitting outside the end of the shaft because it's still outside, no? Then what do you do? Any ideas? Someone else, what do you do? Yeah. Ask the guy next to you.
Come on, Abba.
What would you do? You have to fit the cone, no? How do you fit the cone? The cone will not fit. What will you do?
Sahu, you want to answer?
Answer. Come on, man. Don't be shy, yeah?
That will cut from
Cut the nut.
forward part, little bit.
You can't cut the nut from the forward part because how will you cut it?
Sir, the amount of gap will measure and cut from forward.
But how will you cut it? That is theory. How do you cut it? You can't use gas, and it has to be absolutely flush. The back of the propeller and the front of the nut has to be absolutely flush with each other. Absolute 100% tight, 100% touching. So you can't cut. What will you do? Come on, now this is where you think outside the box. What will you do? You can't change the cone, that's bronze. So what will you do? Come on, it's right in front of you. You make another spacer ring. You extend the propeller has the holes for the cone to fit, correct? Those are studs or nuts. Okay, right? The propeller has that. The nut is sticking out, correct? So those bolts are standard size. But now your cone is sitting here, your propeller is sitting here. Because this thing is not going in. So you make a longer bolt. Stainless steel. And you make another spacer. Again. So you put the spacer, fits correctly. Some bolts of the spacer directly screw in so that the spacer is absolutely tight on the propeller. And then you fit the cone and you bolt it up. So the cone is sitting a little bit outside, of course. And that solves the problem. So this is a lesson in thinking outside the box. You will face this many times. And one of the tricks of this is to understand drawings. Cross section. Do they have cross section on drawing exam? Huh? You have cross section, no? You draw cross section, correct? And you can read cross section. So that is a key, which today I can tell you a lot of engineers on the ship don't have that, what should I say, skill. They can't read a drawing. If you can now visualize this issue or draw it, go home and draw it, go to the hostel and draw it, think about it. Ask them to draw it and see what it is. And then you will immediately get the idea of how to do it. And this happens when you can conceptualize what to do next. So everything is not in the book. A good engineer conceptualizes this. Possible? Take an exam. Make them draw this. See what happens. HOD will do it. Think about it. Why not here? Cost you nothing. The hand drawn here, chalega. Okay, that superintendent was me. I got stuck on the bloody thing. And by the way, that ship was the 15-year dry dock, and she was scrapped. So every 5 years you have to do this, especially for old ships. So at 20 years dry dock, it was intact, and everybody said, let's not touch it. The surveyor agreed also, let's not touch it. On the 22nd year, at the end of the 22nd year, they scrapped the ship. It went to the shipyard with this contraption still fitted, as is. Has anybody has anybody heard, when we are on the subject of propellers, what happens when a propeller blade bends? What do you do? Any idea? You know, propeller blade hits a rock, hits something and is bent. What do you do? How do you straighten it? Can you straighten it? Can you? Yes or no? Yes, you can. If it is above 0.7 R, you can see somewhere, I think 0.7 R is, this is 0.7 R. So anything here, if it blade is bent, anything beyond this, you can straighten it out. Vatsala and a lot of companies on done this. They make a horseshoe-shaped kit. It's done in the water. Easier to work in the water because the thing is huge. Okay, so it's got its own buoyancy. They put it around the blade like this, and then they use jacks, and slowly they bend it into place. It may not be absolutely accurate, but it comes back in shape. Ships run. We had the second ship which had this problem. First story I told you was there were sort of sister ships. The second ship hit iceberg. I mean not iceberg, ice float, and the propeller got bent. So in Liverpool or somewhere, then we got this machine, put it in the water, and slowly they straightened it up. That ship also went to dry dock. No one made out how much was it bent or how much was it. It looks like original. And you have the performance comes back to normal. Again, when we did it, it was many years ago. Now it's quite common. In those days, the ships used to hit ice floats going to North Atlantic. I also had a ship which hit an iceberg, like Titanic style. Okay, there was a big bloody hole in the front, so the captain rang me up. He's somewhere working ashore here in Bombay, and he says we had this big thump, and then the forward peak alarm came. The forward peak tank alarm came. So the whole thing, big hole. So of course the ship went there. Then they made this jig, and they filled it with cement, and she ran till the dry dock. Quite common. This used to happen in those days. Now with warming, it doesn't happen. So the story of the Titanic is like that is true. Only thing captain was not standing like this. Okay, let's go to the next one. You make them do this one. HOD, sir. Huh? Next. Interesting one. Major accidents of engineers. The first one. Major one. He put his finger in the wrong place. I mean, you have to grow up. You have to put your fingers in the right place, not in the wrong place. Okay. You will find fools who are aligning two flanges, correct? Two flanges, and the whole is there, he put his finger in, and then the other guy doesn't think back and pulls the chain block and he cuts his finger into two. Very common. Or crushes his fingers. Do they do lathe work? Yes, sir. Huh? You have the guys who are working with us, grow in the lathe and his finger goes in. The whole hand goes in fact. So this is a very common injury. Very common. So be careful. Just keep in mind where to put your fingers. Always remember this. There is no pun in this. Okay? Second, trips, slips. Again, quite common. People don't see where they are going. Ship is rolling or something, goes for a toss. And they are quite drastic injuries. And the worst part of this type of an injury, see, you lose your finger, it's okay, you have one finger less. You lose all your fingers, you got a slight problem. You spoil your day. But if you trip and fall and you hurt your spine, and you don't get feeling in your legs ever again, then you have a serious problem, isn't it? And that is again connected to people falling from heights. You see? So, you fall. We had a cadet on a bulk carrier, brand new bulk carrier, first voyage. He fell 17 meters. He survived. Luckily, nothing happened to him. Only thing is, he was short of memory. His memory was affected. I still remember him because I was the second engineer on that ship. The next ship he joined, the ship sank. So, you're not friends like that on the ship. But he survived. He was ashore for quite some time, okay, and he lived. It was lucky that the ship was near Azores, so a Spanish helicopter picked him up. Otherwise, he would have died. Third one, fall from heights, exactly what I'm talking about. So, be careful, see where you're going. We have a video in my ex-office of a guy in a shipyard. Shipyard, dangerous place. They remove floor plates. They don't put staging or anything sometimes around it. We have a video because of the camera and the engineer. And we can see this guy is walking, walks this way. And you can actually see him falling from the top platform to the bottom platform. There's a video of that. Because he's not looking, he's looking up. Be careful of that. Wire slings. Wire slings and what do you call it? Chain blocks. Chain blocks break. Wire slings break. The chain of a wire sling breaks. Don't be underneath it. Okay, be careful. So, engine room crane being used, careful. See, you have to have a sense of self-preservation. The Filipinos do not get injured in all these silly ways most of the time because their inbuilt sense of self-preservation is higher than the Indians. Indian wo bolega, "Arey hamara karma tha ya, wo karma se ho gaya hai." There's no karma involved in this. But they have very strong sense of self-preservation. All these type of injuries, they avoid it very well. Indians, if you say an Indian if you take an Indian is 100%, okay, the Filipino will be 40 to 50% of getting these type of injuries. And there's no one at sea to help you, Finished. That's your problem. Jump. Everybody will have self-pity and all, they'll feel bad for you. So see where you're going. I've had a chap, because the hatch covers swing outwards. So the hatch cover is opening, tick, 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 going. And there's a small gap. And this idiot runs through. His leg gets caught, it gets crushed. Landed ashore, not very good, not very good medical treatment. They cut off his leg. End of story. Engine room crankcases, another dangerous area. Very dangerous area, because when you're using a piston, there is one nincompoop on the top who's lowering this thing. There's another chap who's aligning the the stuffing box. And the third one, that's you, is in the crankcase. Something goes wrong there, you have a serious problem. Will spoil your day 100%. So don't let that happen. Crankcase, be very scared. Okay, and always have 3-point contact. Legs, perfect, and one hand holding, wherever you are. Don't try to be a monkey in the crankcase, it doesn't help. And nowadays, the big ships, the crankcases are bigger. You fall from the main bottom platform, you will fall at least one platform below that. And there are all sorts of protrusions to halat kharab. Think about it. Major accidents, electrocution. I'll tell you an example. It's a very sad case. So, a motor is landed ashore by one electrician, comes back with the second electrician. The first electrician, when he's removing the motor, finds 2 wires which are live. He doesn't have any information about it, so he puts the tape. And he's left, he's signed off the ship. The second fellow comes. He has put off all the things which he's supposed to put off as per the electrical drawing. So he's done his job. But these 2 wires which were taped, he doesn't realize what they were. The drawing does not show it because it was a modification for a frequency controller done later. But There was no drawing for it. Put along, normally you put all the drawings inside the panel itself. So you open the door, the electrician can read it, but that drawing was not put there. Now this fellow goes to, motor is put in place, he's rewiring it. Normally people stand on mats and think you must have taught them, no? That electrical shocks and all that has been taught to them? Yes. Yeah. You stand on a mat, you do this, you do that, all the stuff, check this, check that, it's all okay. There's not enough place, there must be this much place. So, and there is a pipe drawing. So he has to work this way, there's not much space. So he sits on the pipe. He sits on the pipe. And he takes off the tape, he doesn't realize it. He touches those wires, he gets electrocuted because he is sitting on the pipe. He has no place. This is not his fault at all. Okay? And he dies. Gone. So, again another issue. Careful. You had a case of in the dry dock, someone put a scissor on top of the electrical panel inside the main switchboard. On one of the panels, the vibration, the ship left, it vibrated, touched two of the main 6600, blew up the whole switchboard. You don't want to be around when that happens. So be careful of this. Explosions, crankcase explosions, very rare, but do happen. Do they learn about scavenge fires and all? Yes. Again, those are very rare nowadays. In fact, in the office there are people who have never had a scavenge fire in their lives. So, but you should know about it, what to do. Fire, I'll show you some slides. Take a look. Grounding and flooding, which you have no control over, but when that happens, you have the problem. The captain will be sending messages that time because what happened, but you will be facing water coming into the engine room. Again, big problem. Collision, no control, but spoils your day, definitely, or your week, even your month. Now, I'll show you some pictures. Next slide. This is the moment when an engine room caught fire. The moment the camera caught this. Okay, what was it? Very simple. The flange bolts, one slackened, the other one broke. Oil spilled out, gone, fire. Have they learnt about the fire extinguishing systems in the engine room? Not CO2, the spray?
Yes, sir.
So that stops this. Okay. Again, that spray works very well, but you don't have to close the valve leading to the pump which supplies the spray. We find that people have shut this valve. Many cases, people have shut the suction valve because they closed the valve for when the tank was empty and they forgot to open it. What do you do in this fire extinguishing system, the spray? What happens when you have to clean the tank? What would you do? Simple answer. Common sense. Come on. Common sense. You're cleaning the tank is empty, it's for the spray system. What will you do? It's fresh water tank. What do you do? Come on, young man sitting in the first row. Yeah. You.
We'll close the suction valve. Sir, we'll close the suction valve so that no air can.
No?
No air can come inside the.
Not yet. This is water here. From the freshwater tank. Give him the microphone. Come on. What do you do?
Sir, while we are cleaning the water tank from which the mist comes, sir, I think that we should close the valve of the pump so the air won't filter down.
No. You make a connection to the other's freshwater tank. Because when you make a mistake, when something goes wrong, it's not one thing that creates an accident. It's a combination of 2-3 things. So you're cleaning the tank, very good. You land up someone doing silly things on the engine, you have a fire, it doesn't work because the valve is shut. Simple. So you connect the other tank to the pump. Never mind if it's temporary, at least you're protected. Makes sense? Common sense? Engineering is common sense, huh? It's common sense, luck, and your ingenuity. There's no rocket science, huh? That's what I look at it, but then it's a different story. So this moment it happened, boom. This was a cruise ship, huh? It was a cruise ship. And if you see everything is well covered, huh? Can you see this? All this well covered. But a little chink went in and caught fire. It got put off very fast. No problem on that. But this is something when you're overhauling generators, engines, etc. All the guards, shields, etc. have to be put back absolutely perfectly. Bolts have to be tightened. To talk, use the correct bolts. What is the correct bolt? Okay, the guy next to you who answered. What is the correct bolt?
Sir, it is a bolt which is used to fit.
What is the correct bolt? I'll tell you. A correct bolt, a good correct bolt will be a certain material, and the material is stamped on the head of the bolt. Not the normal run of the mold, but these type of bolts will have a stamping. And it will tell you what is the torque on the bolt, or it tells you a number. You should know material strength of the bolt. So you put the wrong bolt, which does not this thing, it will break. Keep that in mind. You will not see it in normal bolts, but on the ship you will see it. So investigate what does the stamping mean. Even I can't remember. Next slide. Okay, can we play the video? There's a video at the bottom. Can you? Yeah. You can see it here. You can see it here. No? Want to see it again?
Yes, sir.
Just play it again.
ปานแล้วยังสูญหายอีก 7 คน มีคนไทย 1 คน พม่าอีก 6 คน และผู้เสียชีวิต 1 คน แต่ยังไม่ทราบสัญชาตินะครับพบศพผู้เสียชีวิตเนี่ยคือขาขวาขาดไปเลยห่างไกลไปถึงจากจุดนี้500 เมตรเดินไกลมากเลยอ่ะไกลขนาดนั้นเลยนะ500 เมตรนี่ตามรายงานนะครับและสัตว์
A lot of people dying in that. You don't want to get involved in that. No. Simple thing, tankers, simple reason. Gas may not necessarily, they haven't found out water. This is just a week ago. Gas, which sort of could be in the same compartment, which has caused this. They study about LEL, lower explosive limit, upper explosive limits. Something to keep in mind. If you are in that limit, in that range, and there's a spark, you're gone. They won't find your body also. We had a ship where the chief officer's body we never found. Okay? Something like this. So, another issue. You go inside a tank, do not enter the tank without the oxygen being safe in that tank. And if your chief officer or some guy decides to go in and he collapses, don't be a hero and try and go inside to pull him out. You need to go inside with an SCBA set. So many cases, guy has collapsed inside, second guy goes in, dead, both dead. So nowadays everybody keeps SCBA sets outside. There's a large number of precautions to take, but still this happens. So explosions happen because of a lot of precautions taken, still it happens. 1 week ago, people die in tanks, lot of precautions, SCBA said, oxygen content, they said this, that, still it happens. We had a case of a chief officer, they were cleaning the tank, chemical tanker, they were cleaning the tank, and the chief officer, very well experienced chief officer, very good man. See, I just go down for a second to check, first. And the cadet told him, don't go. He went in, he didn't come out. And the cadet did not go in, otherwise he would have also gone. So, these are a few things. So as I said earlier, you want to join the ship with an empty bag and you want to leave the ship with all your fingers and toes intact and a bag full of money. Keep that in mind. Very important. Next slide. Next slide. Someone knows the name of the ship? Wakashio? Anybody heard of it? You know why it happened? Off Mauritius. Because the captain wanted a signal for the telephones. The captain was in jail. They put him in jail. It was a brand new ship. So they didn't calculate for the reef. She went aground on a reef, she broke up and polluted the whole coastline. I think the captain was still there. Indian captain, by the way. Next. Someone who used to work with Express, no? Who was here working with Express company, shipping company? This is a brand new ship. Less than a year old. Express Pearl. Sailed out of Mundra. Was carrying nitric acid, which leaked. Caught fire in the hold. Our ship was next, quite close to it at anchorage. The captain was screaming for help. The fire was not so big at that time. He was screaming for help. Off Colombo. No one came to help him. Okay? No, they didn't take him inside. Okay? Nothing. The whole ship burnt and sank. Why didn't they take him inside? Why didn't they take him inside? Yeah, the pot is there and you have something that is burning, a container ship, which no one knows what is inside the containers, right? It blows up, it blows off half the pot here. You must have seen the photographs of Beirut port exploding. Yes, sir. So that's why they don't take ships seriously. Again, what does that bring you to? When something goes wrong, God above and your ingenuity. That's simple. Keep that in mind for the rest of your life. Next. Collision. A bulk carrier banged into this guy. Can you see the condition of the accommodation? Can you see? It's all burnt. I think 4 people. 1 person.
Personal safety.
Okay, next.
Sense of preservation.
Next.
Observation of the surrounding.
Raj, go ahead.
Always choose your career before a woman.
Pardon?
Always choose your career before a woman.
That is the first thing. So you are ashore and what will you do? Thinking about safety. What is the use? Then all this is useless then. If you are sitting ashore. Most important. Who is this guy? Put your hand up. What's his name?
Raj, Raj, we spoke to him yesterday.
Tera idea bata bhi. Okay, nothing else from my side. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I hope I haven't bored you.
No, sir.
Okay, some of you, I think, Mehnash has said we can meet outside and you can ask me all your embarrassing questions. If you think you can ask me now, you're welcome to throw them at me. Up to you. What do you want to do?
Raj, you want the kids to ask now or later? Later.
See, in any family, you will go to your mother and tell her something. You don't want your father to know. Correct? All your fathers are sitting here. Correct? I am just going away, so I can listen to it, help you out and go away. That is better, no?
Some of us want to ask.
Chawla ji, you don't mind, no? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. Thanks a lot.
Now, I would like to call our Honorable Campus Director, Commodore Dr. Vivek Chawla, to give a vote of thanks to end the event.
Okay, good evening to all the cadets. Very respected Chief Engineer Mr. Cawsi, who has been the ex-CMD of Anglo-Eastern, faculty, and all our cadets who are here. I think we could not have had a better speaker than this, and he brought out various aspects which are very, very important in your future career. God above and your ingenuity. I think that is a very important takeaway which is there. God above and your ingenuity is very important. Your innovation and how you are going to steer your ship and manage your ship is something which you have to follow. There is no doubt about it. You know, one keeps thinking, okay, I'm joining, like someone said yesterday, you know, we had the lectures talked about dollars and so many things. It is not the dollars. It is finally how you leave your ship totally intact and you leave with, you know, with not only reputation, but your safety systems, everything should be intact. That is very important. So just a few things which I, you know, jotted down when he was speaking. You are yourself a complete package when you go on the ship. You have to look at both aspects, your motivation aspects, your hygiene aspects. When you talk about hygiene, what are the hygiene factors? Roti, kapda, makan, paisa, all these are your hygiene factors. Then you come to your motivation factors, which is your professionalism, how you are going to perform on the ship. That is a very, very important aspect. Yes, what he talked about your career, about when you plan to get married and what you want to do further. You know, those issues do come in and somewhere you have to strike a complete work-life balance. And these days, you know, earlier there were not so many opportunities. When you joined the Merchant Navy, it was only the Merchant Navy and you come ashore, maybe you don't get anything. But today with the Maritime India Vision Plan, with the Sagarmala program, with the coastal economic zones, with so much of development going on, and with the amount of courses which I have told you, which our college is doing, which our university is doing, there is a space for everyone. So I feel you should follow your passion and be totally professional. The most important fact what he's brought out is be totally professional in your approach. These accidents, we just cannot happen on board. You cannot have it. We had a refrigeration plant. You have regular turning of machinery every day. The sailor goes, he goes to turn the machinery. He doesn't know that it is on auto mode. He turns the belt. The moment he turns the belt, actually the machinery starts. His finger is gone. So these are the accidents which happen very often, and despite knowing it, one doesn't follow it. So there is an important lesson over there, very, very important lesson. Safety when you enter tanks, that is another aspect which is very important. When we talk even about water tanks, if there are certain tanks here in the campus and you're going to get those tanks clean, we all know that drying paints, they absorb all the oxygen. Anyone goes in, it can be a serious problem. So we have to look at all these aspects. Safety, innovation, professionalism, know your machinery. When I tell you that you should study, that is the basic thing what he's telling you, that look at YouTube videos, see how accidents have taken place. Propeller design, how to be innovative and how to make sure that your propellers work. Now we have arranged, many of you have not even seen ships. That is what I want to tell you, sir, that many of the students, they have not seen the ships at all. So we have arranged for a visit to the naval dockyard starting from 3rd of February. 3rd February, one batch will be going, then the 10th February, 17th February, and then 24th Feb. When you go, do have a look at the dry dock. See how the ship looks in the dry dock. How is it? So that is very important. And when you see the draft of a ship, you may have almost about 70 to 80% is below the water. When you touch any underwater valve, that is another area you have to be very careful. You open an underwater valve, there is a leak or you're not careful, you're flooding, you'll reach at the same water level as outside. That is just what's going to happen straight away. One thing I was very glad was that last semester we had certain paper presentation by the cadets. And I'm very glad to see that much of the technology which was being covered has also been exposed to the students. We talked about the air bubble cushioning effect. We talked about the wind turbine being used for propulsion. So these are very good concepts, and this is one thing which you must keep in your mind. It's very, very important. Now you know that there are 7 engines of growth. We had the budget today. Yesterday was the economic survey, and you all must be knowing that India is well on the path of growth. All of you must follow the budget and hear about it. In fact, we were talking to Mr. Cawsi also. So he was telling that today he has seen the entire budget. So India is in a growth path. There are various engines of growth which are in progress. 7 very important engines of growth have been identified. They are the road sector, railway sector, air sector, ports, inland water transport, waterways, multimodal transportation and logistic infrastructure. So these are the future areas where growth is going to take place. And that is one aspect which he has covered very well. Exports have increased from $400 billion, which was supposed to be planned, it went up to $422 billion. Then you must be also aware of the Ganga Vilas cruise which has taken off. You are aware of the Ganga Vilas cruise? Yeah. It is now the longest cruise in the world, 3,200 kilometers. So these are the developments which are taking place. So before I conclude, I would like to thank Shri Cawsi for an excellent lecture. It was a totally wonderful exposure to everyone. I think even I learned quite a few things from him which I may not have picked up in my earlier stages. But what he's talking about is absolutely practical knowledge, absolutely hands-on experience. We talk about so much of theory, we do so much of paper presentation, but the hands-on experience is something which is more important. And one more thing I'll tell you, that he's spared his valuable time to be with us today. He could have had so many invitations. He's abroad. He's here for a very limited time, and we're very thankful to him for having spared his time to be with us here. For that, I would like to even thank Professor Shroff for having taken the, he really said that, sir, we must invite him for this particular guest lecture. So I'd like to request you all to kindly join me in giving him a standing ovation for the lovely talk which is given. Thank you so much.
I'd like to request our Honorable Director Sir to please present the memento to our guest of honor. I request you, sir, to please come on the stage.
Akshat from third year.
Now I request all the faculty members to please come on the stage for a group photograph.
Raj, bring all your kids.